Welcome to the show your parents, the PTA and the asleep don't want you to hear. The Helios blog. Today on Piers Morgan, apparently Diddy has tapes on everyone. This should be a zinger.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
Will either be an accomplished state prosecutor and senator or a billionaire real estate mogul who served 4 years in the Oval Office. At least that's how I and many other people see it. But the laws of identity politics, this is actually a contest between a mixed-race woman and a very privileged white man who's intrinsically racist, and race has inevitably become a lightning rod in this election. This week, Kamala Harris said that she's open to taxpayer-funded reparations for slavery. She also unveiled
My Lord
for black men, which included legalizing weed and offering 1 million forgivable loans to black business owners. Most black voters will support her, nobody doubts that, but she's on track to win a much smaller share of black voters than Joe Biden did in 2020.
Everybody loves ads. Yes, ads are the best. Even though we have an ad blocker. Guys, hopefully it updates in a few days and we don't have to deal with this crap.
Trump, meanwhile, is on course to make substantial gains amongst black voters. In a little while, we'll debate why that is. But first, we're going to focus on P. Diddy, whose scandal deepens daily. Already facing federal charges, including sex trafficking and racketeering, Sean Combs has been hit with a slew of new civil lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault against 6 victims, one of them a 16-year-old boy. Well, to debate this, I'm joined by the host of the Candace podcast, Candace Owens, and the host of Bet News and Upfront on Al Jazeera, Professor Mark Lamont Hill. Welcome to both of you. Candace, good to have you back on Uncensored. P. Diddy, this seems like every day the scandal gets bigger and worse for him.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I'm not surprised whatsoever. I mean, I think I was on your show before he got arrested and I brought up what was going on with him, and because I had read through the lawsuit, and it was just one of those things that was unavoidable because there was so much evidence. I mean, there was picture documentation, there was video documentation. And I also want to be clear that the press and the media and the public at large is shocked by what's happening, but we really are just getting to the beginning of everything. There are a lot of people who have been named that have not been brought to heel, people that were above him, music executives, and none of this is shocking, really. I think, yesterday a report came out that showed that faith in the mainstream media is at an all-time low, right? I think something like 65% of Americans no longer trust the mainstream media.
Mainstream media is a joke. 2024?
The Diddy case is a perfect example as to why that is. You have people that spent so much time defending this man. This man was allowed to be with every presidential candidate. He was allowed to throw parties. He was hailed as a hero. And yet behind the scenes, everyone knew that this is what he was engaged in. This was an open secret in Hollywood. In fact, when Kanye last year said that he was a Fed and started speaking about some of these allegations, he was simply dismissed as crazy. People at the upper echelons of society and politics knew about this and they were okay with it, fundamentally because he was acting a part. I very much believe what Kanye alleged, that he was acting a part like Jeffrey Epstein, in which he was collecting blackmail over various people that were in Hollywood. And so, like I said, we're at the beginning. We're scratching the surface of this scandal. There are some more big names that are going to have to answer for it. And I think also the silence of certain individuals like LeBron James is quite deafening. A person who claims to care so much about Black life, Black Lives Matter, on the ground, taking a kneel. Okay, that's fine. But now you have a friend of yours who has been on camera beating a Black woman. Okay, you said nothing when that happened. You also know that you have various Black people speaking out about how they were abused by him, and you have said nothing. So I don't like the hypocrisy behind that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I mean, Mark, there are lots of big names being dragged into this. We don't know where the truth lies with that yet. But certainly people like LeBron have been deafening with their silence for the reasons that Candace just articulated. It reminds me a little bit of Epstein in relation to all the apparent taping of videos and pictures and stuff that was allegedly going on. And we'll see what that plays out like in a courtroom. But it also reminds me of Harvey Weinstein in the sense that there you had somebody in the movie industry, as big as P. Diddy, I think the most Oscar-nominated person in the history as a producer in Hollywood, where everyone must have known something about him, right? I mean, I knew that Harvey was a pretty bad bully and all the rest of it. And it must have been more than an open secret.
Yes, we love ads, we love ads. I apologize once again, guys. I do make the videos in batches. And sadly, because I make the videos in batches, and my ad blocker has not updated to deal with the new, you know, it's like an arms race between the ad maker and the ad blocker. I apologize.
Did you know about Diddy, Piers?
No, I didn't. No. No, but
Wait a minute.
Well, I didn't know. I met
did
Diddy.
you-
I'll tell you, I met Diddy a couple of times. I mean, here's what the point. The analogy I'm going to make is, I met Diddy twice for about 10 minutes. Harvey, I knew a lot better, and I knew there was an unsavory side to him. I didn't know about all the rape stuff that then emerged, but I do believe there must have been a lot of people who did know that stuff, who were around Harvey Weinstein at a close enough level to know that. And I certainly believe with P. Diddy that there were a lot of people that were going to these freak-off parties and so on, who must have known for many, many years that all this stuff was going on. That's the parallel I'm drawing.
No, I understand the parallel you're drawing. The idea that I'm disputing is just the idea that everyone knew, or that
I don't mean everybody. I mean, look, I just think a lot of people must have known.
Of course. We're not in disagreement about a few things. First, everything that Diddy has been accused of is despicable and indefensible, and I hope that he is held accountable in all the ways that are fair and just and reasonable. There are, I mean, who knows how many victims? You know, there are lots of allegations. I have no doubt that lots of the allegations are true, and as Candace said, I have no doubt that lots of people have known for a long time. And there are lots of reasons why people didn't come forward. Some of it is good old-fashioned, Hollywood culture, which is people are getting exploited, people are getting hurt, people are getting harmed. But as long as it's the old boys network, we don't care. And Diddy became one of the old boys network. The old boys network isn't just old white men. It also includes powerful, rich black men. Not in the same way, but certainly people like Diddy are in that mix. I don't disagree with that. I'm very uncomfortable throwing LeBron James's name out there as someone who knew something or has some
well, no, I think, to be fair, yeah, but on that, I think
Candace
was quite careful how she worded that. She didn't say...
The silence is deafening means... Why... Like... He says he's so protective over black lives, and yet he hasn't said anything on the Diddy matter, which means what? Which means he's possibly a hypocrite, right? Not that he's in league with Diddy.
That he knew. She just said he's been deafening by his silence, which he has. He's been very vocal about a lot of other issues involving the black community in America. Why is he so silent? Just because it happens to be somebody he used to party with. It's just interesting.
It is interesting, but I want to caution the audience not to jump to any conclusions about why LeBron hasn't. Again,
sounds like, what is this? Propaganda?
Let me be very clear. LeBron should speak out about this because something awful happened, and he has a duty. I think all public figures have a duty to speak out against awful, morally atrocious things that happen. I just don't want to leap to a...
I don't know if public figures all have an obligation to speak on controversial matters. No, you don't necessarily have an obligation to do that. I disagree.
Conclusion. I'm not saying Candace did, I'm not saying you did, but I don't want to leap to a conclusion that there's some other sort of reason why he may have done this. The other thing here is...
I just remember, look, on that, I just remember...
I just need you to hear...
Okay, yeah,
go ahead, Piers, I'm sorry.
Well, the point I was going to make, just on the point you made...
All I was going to say is... Sorry.
All right.
Okay, there's just a little delay.
Let me go first. Let me go first. The point I was going to make about the point...
You go first.
You just made a really good point, which I want to make a point of, which is, I think that the point I would make was when Harvey Weinstein went down, there was an absolute stampede of celebrities in Hollywood who rushed to distance themselves and publicly denounce him. And I've just noticed that with P. Diddy, there's been a very, very, very small number of high-profile black celebrities, including sports stars, entertainers, and so on, who have chosen to
do so. Again, guys, I apologize for the dumb ads that keep interjecting and getting between us and our fun.
So there's a marked difference between the way these two scandals have played out in terms of how many high-profile people are prepared to go, this is disgusting.
Well, I think there's another thing here, right? Harvey Weinstein was a predator, full stop, right? Diddy is, based on the evidence, a predator, full stop, and some other stuff. And there are a lot of people, based on what I know, people I've spoken to, the stories I've heard, and the rumors I've heard for 20 years now, about Diddy that aren't always about predation. And that's the complicated thing here, right? A lot of the
why does
details,
that make it complicated?
a lot of the gossip, a lot of the nastiness. You'll just hear me out, you'll understand.
Okay.
The thing is, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the subtext around Diddy isn't about predation, it's around sexuality. And so a lot of people aren't really outraged, especially in the hip-hop community.
Oh, what? They're outraged because he's gay?
That Diddy was preying on underage girls, allegedly, or that he's beating up Cassie, allegedly. Some people are just weirded out that he may have been having sex with dudes. And so there's a multiple things happening here. And so a lot of the people in Hollywood who are being quiet on Diddy, they're not being quiet because they knew he was doing something illegal. Some of them are quiet because they were at the parties, they were at the freak-offs doing freaky stuff. And the freaky stuff isn't illegal, but it can ruin your career in a society that's homophobic. So I'm saying it's a lot of things mixed in.
Okay, Candice, you're raising your hand. I think I know why, but go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you in some ways. What I would just add is it's without question because they did not know that he was recording them. I mean, when I read through that lawsuit, Rodney made it very clear that he had hidden cameras. And if you are a person like LeBron who says ain't no party like a Diddy party, you got Ashton Kutcher talking about what happens at Diddy parties stays at Diddy parties. And finally you learn via the press that actually Diddy has been collecting evidence on all of you and you don't know where those tapes are. That will buy your silence for quite some time because you're hoping that if you keep your head low, you're not going to be revealed as one of these people that was engaged in some of these acts, whether they were heterosexual or homosexual, it doesn't matter. Maybe you're just cheating on your wife and you don't want that to get out into the public. Maybe you were, as Cat Williams described it, in one of the rooms. He said you could just walk around the house. He said this on stage years ago, that you could walk around the house and you would see people engaged in various sex acts. And again, Cat Williams was someone who was dismissed as crazy and dismissed as a drug addict. And it turned out that, or it seems that if these allegations are proven to be true, and I believe they are, then he was telling the truth. And I think that is the reason that so many of them are silent, because they were doing things. They thought that they were his friend, that they were bad boys for life, and that he would keep things silent when in reality he was just another Jeffrey Epstein typed character, and they're scared for their lives. Yeah, especially if you're someone like a LeBron James, and I'm not alleging that he is caught in something terrible, but if he was caught in anything and you're LeBron James and you've made your mark on talking about the ills of society and you have minted yourself a king and you're speaking out on the Black community and they find out you're the room over while someone's getting raped potentially.
Yeah.
Not going to look good.
Well, I just think, look, we don't know, as you say, where the truth lies with this, and we're not inferring anything against LeBron or Ashton Kutcher or anybody else.
Correct.
You know, I had Jaguar Wright on, who made a number of allegations against Beyonce and Jay-Z, which we were not able to independently substantiate, which were vigorously
Which
denied.
was ridiculous that they sent you a cease and desist. Just
they just said these allegations are completely.
They should have sent you a cease and desist.
Well, no, I'll tell you what they sent me. Actually, it wasn't even that. I'll tell you what happened. They just said, look, these allegations are completely untrue and we will sue you if you don't take them down. We had no way of independently verifying anything she said in relation to Jay-Z and Beyonce. Now, you know, who knows where this scandal goes or what names get dragged in and in what way. But what it's taught me is you just have to be careful when a story like this breaks, that when we put big names into the scandal, you just don't infer they've done anything wrong yet. The only thing we can say, which is, I think, pertinent to this, comes back to what we said at the start. When people who are as normally vocal as LeBron, who can be as condemnatory as he's been publicly about all manner of issues, when they're completely silent about something as big as this, and you know they were good friends with P. Diddy and were at the parties and so on, you just raise an eyebrow, right? And you would about everybody. And it may well be, as Candice says, Mark, it might be a sense of unknown, not knowing what's on tape here, not wanting to get involved at all. I totally understand it. But I do remember, by marked contrast, the number of people in the Weinstein scandal who raced to publicly disown him. And interestingly, with Epstein, that didn't happen with him. because he also had a lot of tapes.
Because it's interesting. It's an interesting point, Piers. But I mean,
So when you're a degenerate, the strategy is to film people doing the degeneracy with you, so they die with you if they... it's mutually assured destruction?
again, Diddy is very interesting in that for the last 30 years, he has taken pictures and partied and hung out with everyone. Yes, he's hung out with politicians, but I guarantee you a lot of them politicians, I ain't saying all of them, but a lot of them politicians had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. When you go to a Diddy party, there's levels to the Diddy party.
Yes.
There's the Diddy party at the club. There's the Diddy party at his house. Then there's the after party. Then there's the after party, right? I haven't been to any of those after parties or after parties, or you know what I mean, or any of those parties, in fact. So I'm just speaking as a researcher here and as a journalist. I'm saying that there are levels to them. So there are lots of people who go to the Diddy parties that don't know any of that. But if you find out that all these awful things happen at Diddy parties at 4 a.m., it's hard to go to the media and say, yo, I was at the Diddy party, but I left at 12. Or I was in the Hamptons, but I didn't go to the next location. And so I think a lot of it is fear of public relations. And I think to Candace's point, I don't think it's a coincidence that Diddy has all these strategic alliances with every single person in Hollywood, black or white. And I think Harvey Weinstein didn't have those types of relationships, so it was much easier for people to run from him. And also,
you know the kind of hypocrisy though, Candace, which really gets my goat with this. Take somebody like John Legend, right, who decided to rewrite the lyrics to "Baby It's Cold Outside" because it endorsed sexual misconduct, which obviously was completely preposterous. It's one of the most innocent, flirtatious videos ever made back in the 60s about a beautiful love song. And it was completely misappropriated by Legend.
No, it was rapey. Knock it off.
It's not rapey at all.
It's not.
Maybe it's cold. Do you want to come in for a drink? It's cold outside. Do me a favor. And anyway, and even
she
if you
keeps saying no, and he keeps trying to get inside.
it was
on, Piers.
harmless flirtation. Completely misconstrued deliberately by John Legend to tick all the right virtue signaling boxes. But here's my point: what has John Legend said about?
Testify to that in court?
What has John Legend said about P. Diddy? He was enraged by a 1950s video of harmless flirtation, so much so he rewrote the lyrics, Candace. But he's not enraged enough by what he's reading about P. Diddy, someone he knows well, to make any comment.
Interesting. Sounds like capery to me. Capery, as they say. I don't think anybody says that. Sorry, guys. The ads.
Right. And that is the reason why people can't stand the Hollywood types, and rightfully so. I mean, John Legend has always been a walking contradiction. He speaks often, oh, yes, the bullying of this cute Christmas song that everybody loves, and I'm still going to play the original lyrics forever. But his wife is sliding into the DMs notoriously of teenagers and telling them they should kill themselves and offering like this small apology, like, I'm really going to take some time off and think about this. So you married a bully. You have been at so many parties, friends with these people. You constantly purport that you're fighting for social justice on every cause. Like I said, the real litmus test was the video, which Diddy owned. That was him beating Cassie on tape. Okay, so forget if you're like, you want to play the card of, well, it's innocent until proven guilty. I know people are making all these allegations, but I'm going to wait. Where were you on the topic of Cassie being beat to a pulp on camera and Diddy offering this little meandering apology about that?
Let me respond to that, because
I would just like to finish, if you don't mind. You're allowed to.
It's more propaganda journalism, right? It's another one. He's like the guys on Israel Hamas for both sides. But this guy's propaganda journaling for P. Diddy.
We don't seem like doesn't seem like there's a buzzer here, so I think I can finish my thought. But you know, and that's what has become so problematic, is they are constantly virtue signaling to the public about how great they are because they're not voting for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's such an awful person because he maybe cheated on his wife 16, 20, 30 years ago, whatever it is. And they just cannot muster that same energy when they are looking at proof, which somebody comes out and says, has to take full accountability. I did beat her. That's me. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Okay, Mark?
So here's my response, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, Candace. Again, there's a sound delay. I thought you had paused. I wasn't trying to be rude. Forgive me. We're saying that John Legend didn't respond to Cassie or to the Diddy parties, and we're saying this as if it's true, but it's not true. And so I just want to read to you what John Legend actually said in response to this, and he said it months and months ago. He said, "I was horrified by the descriptions that I read before the video evidence came out," meaning he believed Cassie even before the video. He then said, "And absolutely, it's something that needs to be brought to light when it happens." He said, "My default stance is to believe women when they make these accusations and to make sure that we do whatever we can to support women."
Yes, believe all women, guys. They never lie.
Also said that he was specifically horrified of this. And then he said, regarding to the other Diddy stuff, he said what he's accused of is shameful. And he said all the other victims that have alleged that he's abused them, it's quite a shame for them too. I really just want accountability and healing. So I think this is an opportunity for us to say this is why we shouldn't jump to judgment. We're on international television castigating John Legend for not doing the very thing that he actually did. Then all I had to do was type John Legend Diddy and it came up first. So you guys owe John Legend an apology if you don't edit this.
Yeah, okay, so here's what I would say to that. It's right that you've pointed that out. My understanding is that were comments he made back in May, not since we've had the raft of charges against Diddy, which is what I'm talking about. So there's been nothing, it's been a deafening wall of silence since the charges. That's what I'm talking about.
We were just talking about Cassie. We specifically just said he didn't say anything about Cassie.
No, I think, look, Candace was talking about Cassie. He clearly did make a statement in referring to that, and that should be acknowledged. So that's fair enough to point that out.
I actually did not see the statement that he made about Cassie and read it in its entirety. So if I missed that, I'm more than happy to own it. I did not see him make a statement, and typically when he makes a statement, it's everywhere. So I guess they just hadn't picked up on what he said about Cassie, and he did great. I'm glad that he's one person in Hollywood who said something, because that was the most troubling for me with LeBron James. I'm like, we actually have video evidence of this. Like, everybody should be saying something about this if you purport to care about women. And him and Chrissy Teigen are typically very loud on topic, his wife especially. So if I missed that and he said something about Cassie, good for John Legend. That makes he and I are on the exact same side on that. But it's not enough that it's just John Legend. Like, there needs to be a lot more people in Hollywood that are speaking out about what's happening.
Let me ask you,
there's
Mark,
a race piece to this too, though. Can we talk about the race piece to this? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was literally about to ask you about that. So you go ahead, Mark, go on.
Because it's really fascinating here, right? So we're saying Diddy does this awful thing. Again, Diddy, despicable, monster, no defense of Diddy. We're asking all the prominent black people to speak out against it, right? But there is never a call for white people to denounce like, no one says every white guy who's ever met Harvey Weinstein needs to say something.
Yes, there was. Of course there was.
No.
That's crazy. What? Or Epstein? Yeah, okay. Yeah, nobody wanted to distance themselves from that guy.
Literally.
No white guy wanted that.
And most of them rushed to do it.
Piers, I want you to listen to what I said again, because you just disagreed with a point I did not make. I didn't say that everyone in Hollywood was not challenged to address Weinstein. I said there's a race piece to this. And people, by virtue of being black, are asked to denounce Diddy because they're supposed to be representing blackness in the black community. I'm saying that white people, by virtue of their whiteness.
Hang on.
That's exactly what Candace. That's exactly what Candace just said.
I said, no, Mark,
I'm talking about Candace, not you.
I'm not saying every black person has to comment on it because they're black. I'm saying I've been struck by the fact there is a massively smaller number of high-profile black celebrities who have spoken out comparative to what happened when Weinstein went down. So you're right that there is a race element to this, but it's the reverse one. Hang on. Let me finish. It's the reverse point to the one you're making. It actually is skewed against the white guy. He got more of a lambasting from celebrities than the black guy who's done arguably worse stuff.
I wish I had the same.
Indeed.
It's amazing, Mark, that you always see a race angle here. The reason why I specifically called out LeBron James and these types is because they themselves are wearing the same race goggles. They purport to be the superheroes in the black community, that every time there's some sort of a social injustice playing out against a black victim, they use their platforms to speak out about it, because they say, oh, it's so unfair that black people are not being believed. It's so unfair. Hashtag George Floyd, hashtag this person. So if you are going to assert yourself as a leader when black people make claims before they're proven in court, this might be a good time to do it when you have a man who had so much power in Hollywood and you just have an onslaught of black artists coming out saying that they were victimized by him. It might be a good time to use your platform. I'm calling out the hypocrisy and the double standard of that. If LeBron James had kept his mouth shut on every other issue and said nothing, I wouldn't be like, hey, why is LeBron James being quiet on this issue? I'd say he doesn't typically weigh in on anything, so it wouldn't make sense to put pressure on him to do it. That would be the scenario in which what you are saying would make sense. It's the exact opposite. I'm saying keep the exact same energy that you have had on every other Black issue when it comes to your door and it pertains to a friend of yours that you were partying with. I think that's pretty sensible.
More ads. Ads are the best. Lovely ads. Yes, we love ads. Yes, skipping it.
Yeah. Mark,
Okay.
where is
Now,
just...
do you mind if I respond to that?
Sure,
Because
that's fine.
there are 3 points that were made that I'd like to respond to. First thing is, I'm rejecting the narrative that I've introduced race into this conversation. The conversation
You
became
literally
about
said
race,
you wanted to bring race up.
You did.
You literally said, I
All
want to
right,
bring race up.
I
You literally
understand
started the
that was in
conversation about
response.
race.
You did it.
All right, I'm going to ask you to allow me to finish a sentence uninterrupted the way you have Candace. Then you can hear why you're actually not correct. Hear what I'm saying. When I said I want to bring race into this, it was in response to the point that Candace had made 5 minutes prior. When you watch this on TV, y'all, or on YouTube, rewind it and you'll see this. When she said LeBron James has spoken out for the Black community, right? And historically, but isn't saying anything here. That was the first time that race was mentioned. My invocation of race was in response to that. And as you conceded just a moment ago, when you disagreed with me, you were saying that you weren't asking all. You were saying that there's a relatively lower response from the Black community on this issue than prior issues.
Not Black community.
Again, my
Now, don't
invocation
misquote
of
me.
race.
Not Black community. High-profile celebrity.
Black celebrities.
Black
Fair enough.
community.
Fair enough.
It's a
But-
very.
but
It's
the
a much
fundamental
smaller
point
part
here
of the
is-
community.
I agree with you, but the fundamental point here is when I said I'm introducing race, it was to respond to a claim that was already racialized around LeBron James.
Oh my god. Yes, if you speak fast enough and if you stutter enough, you are a legitimate arguer. Okay, let's end the video there. Again, if you want to watch the full video, just go to Piers Morgan. It says the video is called Diddy has tapes on everyone. Candace Owens versus Mark Lamont Hill. Alright. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all the notifications. Buy my books at bit.ly/heliosbooks. You can see the list of all the guys that have bought the books there. And of course, if you want me to teach you how to get good at getting girls, just message me at theheliosblog@gmail.com. That's my email. Thank you so much for listening, guys, especially if you listen to the end. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.